Hey guys, so it's Mitchell here from Agent X. Look, we're lucky enough to be talking to Dave, the creative director from Make. Today we're talking about real estate branding in particular. What is it, what it's all about? Let's just get straight into it. First of all, just a little bit about yourself there, Dave, and your business Make.
Yeah, so we're a branding and marketing agency here on the Gold Coast, and we've been in the game for about 5 or 6 years as Make itself, with a long list of clients across a lot of different sectors, including in the real estate industry. Personally, I started here as a graphic designer about 3 or 4 years ago, and over the last couple of years, become creative director. And so my background started in design in Adelaide, actually, working for a number of freelance gigs down there, and then some agency work. And then I moved to the Gold Coast to become a graphic designer at a big publishing house here in the media industry, and eventually found my way here to Make. So I've done everything from build websites, code, graphic design, you name it in the design space, I've probably done it. And yeah, it's definitely an industry and a job that keeps me on my toes, and I get excited about coming to work every day for.
Yeah, nice. Hey, look, it's exciting to see on your website there, you've worked with massive international brands like Heineken, also Agent X, of course, thanks very much. Brand. Now, it's not just a logo, I know that. Talk to me about what exactly is a brand, and I guess why it's important.
Yeah, you've said it in one. It's not just a logo. Brand is actually the meaning that customers or consumers or people actually attach to your business or product. So, when you think of something like Apple or Nike, for example, everyone will have their own interpretation of what that brand means to them, but it becomes very personable. And you can see that the Nike logo is just a simple representation. It's a tick. It doesn't have any, meaning on its own, but it represents what the Nike brand is about. So whenever you see that logo, immediately you associate it with thoughts, feelings, emotions, that sort of thing that give you that personal connection to the brand. So when we talk about brand, particularly here at Make, and when we're branding new businesses, we try to make that distinction really early on, that quite often people walk in and they want a logo for their business, but they haven't thought through how that logo is going to be perceived, or how it's going to be spoken about in the public sphere, and what it's going to stand for down the track. So you've touched on it. It's a brand is more than a logo, and that's what we're all about here at Make.
Okay, so in the real estate space, it's sort of quite interesting in the fact that a lot of new salespeople come on board, they're working under a big franchise, thinking Ray White, thinking Harcourt sort of thing. And I guess that is a brand in itself. As an agent, this can be, I guess, both a positive to have the backing of that sort of massive company behind you, but at the same time, it can also come with some baggage as well. For instance, someone that may have sort of had a bad experience and all the rest. So agents kind of find it challenging that they're trying to get their name in front of the lights, but under this big umbrella. I mean, have you sort of, what are your thoughts on those intricates about having a big brand behind you or not?
Yeah, I think it as you said, it's a positive. It can be a positive and it can be a negative. And in particular with real estate branding, what we find is, because the interactions are so personal, I mean, for the most part, the house is going to be the biggest purchase that you ever make in your life. It's, and the first time you do that, it's frightening, it's scary, you're not quite sure what's going on. And you put a lot of trust in the person that you're dealing with. And so branding for real estate agents is actually quite specialized in that a lot of the time you're dealing with a personal brand rather than a corporate brand or a product brand. So we actually approach that a little bit differently, because it's about you as the real estate agent. A lot of the time you see, whether it's a Harcourts or an LJ Hooker, they've got quite good branding as a company because they want to attract as many people as they can. So they put out a very broad marketing sort of angle. They sort of touch a lot of bases, but it's less personal. And by the time you sort of dig down and you find the person who you're working with, you're actually not quite sure about who they are or what their values are, or whether they're compatible with you as a buyer or a seller of your home. So what we try to do is actually talk to you as a real estate agent, find out what makes you tick, and then build a brand from there. Because you're going to attract clients that hopefully you go along an incredible journey with, and that at the end of the day that they have the best experience they can buying or selling a home.
Okay, so for an experienced agent, this whole Agent X thing is really about creating your own brand. I guess you've got two hats to answer this question, as a brand designer, but also as a consumer, particularly of, you'll be selling your house one day. What effect do you think would have on an agent having their own individualized brand?
I think particularly in this day and age, it's almost becoming the norm, because now with social media, with everyone's basically on a mobile device, the way that just marketing in general has shifted so dramatically over the last 10 years. Building your own personal brand is more important, I guess, than ever. And so when people are out there now, looking to sell a home or to buy a home, and they're going through who they want to deal with, they'll quite often use social media to do that. And if you've built your personal brand on there, and you've got nice clear communication, great design, you'll put yourself ahead of the pack and really, hopefully attract the people that you want to attract.
Yeah, I guess not just the real estate industry, but this word personal brand is becoming massive in Instagram, or whether you're Kim Kardashian or whatever. Personal brand has got a lot of value behind it now, hasn't it?
It does, and to the points you just made, you can just see there what kind of impact that's had, on modern society. I think it's important to note that not everyone's going to, not everyone has the ability to grow their own personal brand the way that the Kardashians do. Not everyone loves to put themselves out there on social media and talk to the camera and be the face. Like, there are going to be horses for courses, but not everyone likes dealing with those kind of, personalities either. There's lots of people out there who'd rather, someone quieter or more measured. But the important thing is, I guess, to be found. And also when people do find you, what kind of messaging and you are putting out there for them. And we understand that here. And I think that's where you don't try and shove everyone in a box and say, oh, we have to do 20 blog posts a week. You have to do this, you have to do that. Your branding's got to be crazy and loud, because that isn't everyone. And real estate agents are all going to be different too. And they're all going to have their own skill set, and they're also going to have their own, strengths and weaknesses that we can then, look at and try and build some of the weaknesses and really try and highlight some of the strengths that they already have. To help them grow and achieve what they want to achieve as an estate agent.
Yeah, I guess you're right, because I guess with Agent X, you don't have to be Mitchell Wilson Real Estate. I could, for instance, be Maake Real Estate, or whatever agency you want to sort of call it, depending on what your goals are, whether it just wants to be you individually selling or growing a massive team. When it comes to that, and you sort of touched on this before, like, different agents will focus on different markets. For instance, some could be sort of selling luxury property exclusively, or others may have more of a focus on family homes, and you've got, I guess, different areas that we're dealing with, different cultures. Would you do anything different when creating brands and logos based on these different sectors that someone may sort of focus on?
Yeah, definitely. When we go about creating a brand here, we really get into who you are. Whether it is a big corporate client, even when we're dealing with some of the big international brands that we have worked with, they're really particular about who they're talking to. So, you mentioned there the specialities within the real estate sector, and it's important to know who you're talking to, and that sort of directs your branding. So what works for one sort of demographic isn't going to work for another. And it's also about how you, as a real estate agent or as a business owner, actually want to talk to that particular person. So when you're doing something luxury, you're going to look at luxury style branding. You want to attract a luxury style consumer. If you're looking at family, you're going to go down a different road. And there's small nuances in all of that. But when we're talking to you as a client, we make sure that we just get as much information out there so that when we start the design process, obviously we're heading down the right direction from the beginning.
I guess this may be a little bit of a magic bullet question, but how do you single your brand out? How do you stand out amongst the busyness that's going on in the world nowadays?
There's probably three key things that I would say that helps brands stand out. It's the first one, I think, is simplicity. If you've got something that's really busy, it's in this sort of short attention span generation, it's really quite hard for people to get as much information as they need out of that when they're flicking through. if there's something with shapes and colours and whatnot, sort of like everywhere, becoming a bit of a mishmash of design. People they don't have enough time or energy to figure out what's going on, so they just flick straight past it. So simplicity is a big one that we're seeing. That's also driven by, I guess, the devices that we're viewing things on. Mobile devices are pretty small these days, so you've only got a limited screen size to play with, and you want to really make the most of that. And they're busy in themselves. So I think simplicity is one. Strength of message is a big one. So we work quite hard actually on where you're going to position yourself in terms of your vision, what your mission is, and your values. And that's something that we go through quite sort of extensively, is really trying to work out why you're in business, what your mission is, where you want to be, and then also your vision for the future and your vision for yourself. And once we sort of work through that, then we can come up with, whether it's taglines or sort of paragraphs that explain what you do. We really try and get that language and those words really impactful and really powerful, so that, within 1 or 2 sentences, you can explain exactly who you are, exactly what you do, and exactly why you do it. Because if you get the right messaging, from the get-go, then you'll be able to, those people that read that, they read a sentence and they're like, yes, that resonates with me. That's something that I want to explore more. They might be talking my language. And so that's the second one. And then I guess the third one is consistency. Brand isn't built overnight. It's a long process. And I think that's something that people sort of kind of forget. They go hammer and tongs into building a brand. They get logos done and websites, and they go out there and they put it out there, and then that's it. And then they don't look after the brand, they don't nourish it, they don't give it more energy, and they don't let it grow. The best brands, the brands that everyone knows and loves, they've been around for a long time, and they've had a long time to build their brand equity. And it's a marathon, not a sprint with brand. And it's just about consistency the whole way through, and being true to what you are putting out there. And that's particularly sort of poignant when you're talking about individual brand. If you've built your brand up to try and be something that you're not, individually it's going to break down at some point, because you just can't keep up that messaging that's not true to you and yourself. And life's a journey, and you're going to have your ups and downs, but if you've got your core values sort of worked out, and you can wake up every day and get up and you say, yep, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing, that'll help underpin that brand messaging, and reinforce it. So 2 or 3 years time, everyone knows who you are, and everyone can speak to your brand and your brand messaging.
So look, I was actually just going to ask you, why doesn't someone just sort of get on their computer and create their own brand? But it sounds like if someone sort of goes to do that, hey, you might get a logo or something like that, but there's no thought process or collaboration to actually really deep dive into the longer term benefits of what you're going to get by crafting that whole brand, not just the logo, but your whole culture. Would that be kind of right sort of thing?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because as we sort of mentioned before, the logo is only a really small component of what makes up a brand. And this is something that we work through in our brand sprints and our brand workshops, where we actually build an entire brand, everything from the core messaging right through to your customers, who you're talking to, your vision, mission, value statements. They all form a foundation of what the brand's built on. And if you haven't gone through that process, and if you haven't understood all of those steps and embedded those steps, then anything that you put on top of that's always going to be on shaky ground, and you're probably going to revisit and redesign down the track anyway. So look, and it's never a one size fits all though. We've sort of worked with people before who have had a logo for a while that they designed themselves, and it got them to a good point. But for the businesses that want to grow and the individuals that want to grow and really create something lasting, and a bit of a legacy sort of style brand that's going to be around for 5 or 10 years, it's really important that you work through that process, and at the end of it, you will have something that you can take with you for a long time.
With real estate, we're not really necessarily selling a product ourselves, we're selling a service. So I mean, that business card is basically all we've got. I mean, we've got all the back end and the everything set up to do a job, all those tools, but when it comes down to it, that business card is it. That's the value of our business. So I guess, to me, brand is such an important thing to get right. Not just those colours and that logos, but I guess it comes as an agent itself. Who do you want to be and what do you want to do?
Yeah, exactly. I think like an interesting sort of thing that we're seeing is that business card actually becomes a key business card is now a key to a world that you create, that you can kind of populate with different things here and there, whether it's social media or a website or a blog or a YouTube channel that you have. And it's how you craft that sort of world where people are sort of finding out that they can actually, without too much effort, but just with consistent sort of creation of content, actually build their brand quite successfully. And when they hand over that business card, you can be sure that the first thing the person's going to do is flip it over, find the social media channels on the back and punch one into their phone. So we understand that, and it's about helping our clients sort of see that it's not just a nice fuzzy business card. It looks great, it's snappy, it's got a really good, might have some nice fonts on it and all of that sort of stuff. But it's the substance that actually underpins that business card that will build your brand and will create a successful business for you.
Now, I know for a lot of people, stepping out by themselves to start their own brand, their own company, can be really, really scary. And I guess this is kind of one of the first steps, isn't it? Just to create this. Where do you start? Step by step?
Step by step, we start with a little brand sprint. So I say little, sorry. We start with a brand sprint. It can be little, it can be short if you're really well prepared, or we've done brand sprints that have gone for 3 or 4 days. But what we do in those sprints is we basically just sit down with you and unpack who you are as a business and as an individual, and then really try to get everything out so that we can start to pull from different bits and pieces and craft a brand with all of the things that I mentioned before. So it's not we try and hold everyone sort of hand through that process as much as we can and answer as many questions as we can. We never just jump in and just start pushing colours and fonts and stuff at people, because there's no context around that. And that in itself is a pretty daunting process when you're not a designer and you don't really know what you're looking at. So I think it's about creating sort of a level of trust between us and then the client, yourself as an individual, and really putting your trust in us that we've got your best interests at heart. Because at the end of the day, whatever we do design and whatever we do create for you does at the same time reflect on us, and we take pride in that, and we just want you to have the best result possible. So I think early on it's very much just talking and understanding and building that sort of relationship so that we can get the best outcome possible.
Hey, that is so awesome. Hey, listen, Maake, and you and your team have been a great partner for Agent X, and you've got us off the ground and running, and obviously helping a whole lot of other agents do the same thing. So really appreciate your time, and look forward to seeing all these amazing brands that you're creating in the future.
No worries. Thanks so much.
Hey,
Chat to you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you.